Ciao y'all. Okay, so let's just jump in. So it's 30 days of sight reading. We're on week 3, and I did this challenge basically for those of you who are not familiar with the series because I did 30 days of scales and I went too hard and it was terrible and I burned myself out and I hated every moment of it. So now we are on 30 days of sight reading and I am still loving this challenge. Okay, let's talk about some tips and like little things that I've learned so far along this journey on like how to improve sight reading or just like techniques that I've learned. Honestly, I was expecting to learn a lot more of them, but I'll share what I have so far and then we'll see if we can't come up with more for week 4. Number 1 tip is just to read ahead. I am really bad when I'm playing piano about like, I don't check the key signature. I don't do any of the stuff you're supposed to do before you sight read something. I don't check the key signature. I don't check the time signature. I don't do any of that. I don't like audiate the first line. This is like a very slippery slope to like me and this banana bread like accidentally making an ASMR video. Anyways, no, I don't do any of that, which is horrible and terrible. And like when I'm playing for my students, I do, but when I'm like, let's sight read Finlandia, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't do that. So, you know, maybe you should do that if you're actually interested in making some good sounds that don't sound like something's actually just like crashing on your piano. But it's fine. I hear it, I go, wow, that feels like a wrong note. And then I glance over and I'm like, oh, we have a sharp. So, you know, a vibe, a mood. Reading ahead, it's really tricky to work on and it's hard because it's like short-term memorization. Like you memorize a measure and then while you're playing it from memory, you're looking and memorizing the next one. And it's like really, really weird. And at first it's super disorienting, but it does work if you're new to sight reading on piano. That's like my number 1 thing. The other thing that I've been working on is just like using my ear to hear when the melody changes and like figure out what I think the left hand is gonna do next. When I look, it's not such a shock. I don't know if that makes any sense to anyone, but if I'm like, oh, it sounds like we're headed to a 5 chord, then like I have a rough estimate of what's probably coming next in the left hand, especially if we're like following like patterns or we're like approaching a repeat. And that means that I'm not so like shocked when I'm reading the music. So that's been really cool. That's also very good for faking. That's like a helpful skill as well. I've been getting rid of the pressure of feeling like I need to sight read things perfectly or else I'm like a worthless piece of garbage by just like trying to read the music the way I would read like a child a storybook. And I have this like weird mentality of like, it's very like woo-woo, but I'm like, just uncover the melody. Just like uncover the song. Like, yes, here we go. I'm trying to be like overly positive and like girl boss cast like gatekeep my way into sight reading well. It's actually working. That's the thing. That's the thing about hollow girl boss feminism is like, you can do it. This video is gonna be absolutely unhinged. I'm so sorry if you clicked on this and you were like, this is gonna be like rigorous academic stuff. Like, yeah, so just trying to uncover the music and then like when in doubt, and this comes more in hand for things like reducing, but just like focusing on the big beats, rhythm, and then like focusing on the harmonies from the outside in. That's been really, really cool because one of the things my piano teacher is working with me a lot on reducing, which is a really important skill, especially for somebody like me who does not consider themselves to be like first and foremost a pianist, but still does need to have a decent amount of like piano chops and does really need to be able to like competently play accompaniment parts in lessons. I find that like reducing is a skill that was not focused on in class piano, and that is probably one of the most important skills that I have had to like try and teach myself in the last year. So yeah, basically, just to say it again, we focus first on big beats, rhythm, and then like outside harmonies to the inside. Oh, and then my last thing for sight reading that I've been focusing on, and I've never thought of music this way, and if I'm just like late to the party, I'm sorry, like, I don't know what to tell you, but just like focusing on hand shape instead of reading the notes. It's weird, like when I look at the piece, I can tell what shape my hand is gonna be in or needs to be in before I can tell what notes I'm looking at, especially if there's a lot of ledger lines. And so I've just been entirely focused on like hand shape. Like, you know, it's a third before you know you're playing E and G, you know, especially if you're like up several ledger lines above the staff. And so that's been really, really good for me. And then also just like make the shape and give my best guess about where it's supposed to be on the keyboard. Just like not staring at my hands while I'm reading, but just like make the shape that the notes are showing me and throw it down with my most educated guess. And honestly, I'm good like 80% of the time. And obviously like playing a piece 80% of the right notes is not gonna cut it, but it's still it's not terrible. Like we can do something with 80%. We can't do something with like 10% of the right notes, but like 80% of the right notes we can work with, you know? So that's been kind of sick. So here's some things that I do to practice the sight reading. Number one is just to like look for patterns and like I was telling you about earlier, like that memorization. If I can look at the bass line and understand like we're outlining F major triads in this, or like we have like a walking bass line and we walk up and then we skip down, you know, like stuff like that. That makes the whole like sight reading process so much easier because I did like a snap analysis. And I hope that as I get better at music theory and as I get better at piano, this becomes even faster and easier for me. Because right now, sometimes I'll look at something and be like, it's a third, but I'll be like, what kind of a third? And then I have to like think about it. And I'm very like, I make this noise a lot when I sight read, like, ah. So it's very like Tina from Bob's Burgers. Like, if me doing 30 days of sight reading is like if Tina and Eugene from Bob's Burgers became like one person. This is so stupid. Okay, another thing that I do that's absolutely like nobody told me to do this and I don't know why I started doing it, but if you really want to punish yourself for something bad that you might have done in a past life, this is the way to do it, is I will sight read something stupidly easy by looking at the first half of it for like 5 to 10 seconds, closing my eyes, playing it from memory right when I'm about to finish that section, opening my eyes, looking at the next section for 5 to 10 seconds while I'm finishing the other like section, and just like keep trying to play a piece like that. That is hellish. Hellish. Yeah, do that with a ton of music and you will absolutely make progress. Oh my God, the crazy woman method. Just like do it a ton. I'm just doing a really high volume of music every day because I'm so into it. Like I'm so interested in it. I literally will like sit down at the piano and like spend the same amount of time that I would spend like scrolling on social media. It's ridiculous. So that's been really dope. And it's a ton of time that I'm putting into this, but it doesn't feel tedious. I think that's like a big thing. Like 30 days of scales, I was like, oh my God, if I play another scale, I'm not gonna make it. And this, I'm really having a good time. Like I am living. I played a little reduction of Finlandia this morning and a ton of other things where I was like, I just sang that melody several weeks ago at my church job and I did not realize that it was not a hymn originally. Stuff like that. It's been really cool. The things that I love most about this is probably the fact that it expanded my knowledge of repertoire because oddly enough, like, yeah, I'm a classical musician, but I feel like I'm a classical musician who only knows about like my area of classical music expertise and I don't really know a ton outside of that. The classical music scene is so vast and I just like, I know only really like my literature. And so this has been really cool because it's been introducing me to new themes and motifs from different pieces and different composers that I never get to sing. And so that has been super fun. And then the other more obvious thing that I love about this challenge is that I'm just like getting better at something that I've always wanted to be good at. I am not the best sight reader when it comes to singing. I feel like the way that my school did oral skills just did not lend itself to like me developing really, really like sick sight reading abilities. Like, and that is on my little like goals board is like unhinged oral skills is like written on a thing on the board because I'm really trying to roll up and just be able to sight read everything. And we're definitely not there yet, but I feel like this has actually made a lot of progress towards that, which is very encouraging. On a side note, this is not related, and I'm so sorry. This is like chaotic and scatterbrained and disastrous, but I made banana bread with protein powder, life-changing. It is like kind of crumpled. It's on a plate right here. I made protein powder brownies, not a vibe. It was fine, but I was like, this is not a brownie. Like, be like protein powder chalky cake, that's okay, but like not a brownie. Like 100% the picture that woman used for the promo photo was not of the recipe that she put on the internet, because I followed that thing to a T and I was like, girl, Let's talk about some of the things that have been difficult about this challenge so far. Namely, honestly, just like finding music that's an appropriate level for me to sight read. Like, it was really tricky. I was trying to sight read through, because my teacher told me to start like trying to reduce the Messiah piano part. So I was like trying to reduce that, and I was like, it's a little tricky, maybe something that I'm a little more familiar with. So I go to Lucia and I pull out the Lucia score and I'm like, great, we're gonna try and reduce this. And it was crazy. It was like there was so much information on the page, like I just couldn't take it all in at the same time. I just ended up doing like tremolos of the bass line in my left hand and then like playing a chunk of the melody for the right hand. But then when I do things that are too easy, it's like I try to do extra things to like make it a little bit trickier and like beef up the sight reading. So it's been hard. I'm right now, I thought I was at a advanced beginner, early or intermediate piano level. So my teacher gave me a bunch of rep to look through and like decide what I like. And I'm definitely at like solid like intermediate, not like beginning intermediate. Oh yeah, another thing that's been like a little bit of a, not a problem with this challenge, because this challenge has been like my perfect child. It's been amazing. But something that's been difficult with this challenge is like I'm spending so much time sight reading and having so much fun sight reading that I'm not really working on rep. Which is fine. Like that's okay. My goal is not to be a concert pianist, so like it's all right, but also it would be ideal if I spent a little bit more time on the literature that I'm assigned and not just like reading through random books. But I did hear from a lot of friends that are like good pianists that like specifically sight read very well, that they're like, oh yeah, I just never wanted to practice as a kid, so like I would just sight read through everything all day, every day, and that's why I'm really good at sight reading. So maybe eventually this will really pay off. Oh yeah, and then the other thing that was like a little bit of an issue is just like my left hand got kind of sore from like just the sheer amount and aggression of tremolos that I was doing yesterday. I stopped playing after a while and I was like, ooh, that was not so fun. Whoops, okay, you live and you learn. Yeah, but like I've already said 20,000 times, basically like this challenge has been super easy to stay consistent with. I am having the absolute time of my life. And if you're interested in working on piano, I honestly think that if you spend some time getting like your basics down and getting to like, you know, if you get through the first like several Faber-Castell videos, I think that if you don't want to work on rep, just sight reading every day would probably make you a better pianist pretty quickly. I'm noticing that that's definitely with me. So if you're like, oh my God, I really want to learn piano, but like I don't want to work on rep really, and I don't really want to pay for lessons and like have like a really intense like learning an instrument kind of experience, I think that if you got yourself like the Faber-Castell, I like the kids series, Piano Adventures. I know that honestly like a lot of adults are like, that's stupid, it's below me, I don't want to sing a song titled A Day at the Fair. But if you get through like level 5 of that book, I think it maybe goes to 5 or 6, and I was sight reading through 5 the other day and I was like, dang, like this is actually some really interesting music. Some of it's like really, really cool. And it also just like scaffolds topics really well and introduces new topics. So on a side note, if you decided that you wanted to learn piano, I think that would be a really sick way to do it. Just like take yourself through all of the Faber-Castell books that you can get your hands on. All right, so if you've watched this far, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. If you would like, comment, or subscribe if you found this interesting and helpful, that lets me know that you enjoy this content and I can keep making it. It helps support me and it would just mean a lot to me. Okay, I gotta go to Costco soon, but first let's talk about what music I'm playing. Okay, so I've been playing this Mastering Melodies series that my teacher gave me. This is the thing I was talking about. I'll grab it, it's right behind me. Basically like this is what I was talking about. She gave me to practice, like find pieces that I liked for repertoire, but it's a little bit too easy. So this is like Beethoven Mastering Melodies. It's like simplified keyboard selections for late beginner, early intermediate. But they look like this and they have been super fun arrangements. I have really been enjoying these and they're just tricky enough that sometimes it does give me a little bit of a run for my money and is a humbling experience. And then at the end of each, sorry, I'm looking through the music, but at the end of each little packet, there's like a duet for the teacher and the student, which is really fun. So if you're looking for like fun duets for your students, also I think that this series would be so good. So yeah, I also just have like a huge Dropbox library, which I recommend all musicians do. Just like spend some time looking for repertoire that you find interesting on ISMLP and download a ton of it to Dropbox. And that way when you have time, you can just go through it and sight read and like hang out and it's really, really fun. So I've been doing a lot of that. I have like a lot of Bach and also a lot of Czerny exercises on there, and those have been good for sight reading practice. I also have a decent size like hard copy score library, and so I have been trying to reduce accompaniments for mostly recitatives. And it's not really reducing accompaniments, I guess. In that case, it's just playing them outright and then reducing the aria accompaniments. And that has been fun. It's a little bit trickier and it makes my brain feel like radio static and like I'm like loading, but I can tell it's good for me. And then finally, one of the other books that I've been having a ton of fun sight reading, I'll show you. It is absolutely falling apart. It is John Thompson's Modern Course for the Piano. This is the 3rd grade book, which y'all, I don't know what 3rd grade child was doing this music. It's hilarious because like my dad also plays piano, and this man will like give me a piece. He'll be like, you should look at that, you'd enjoy that. And I'll be like, oh great, like how old were you when you played this? And he'll be like, I think I was about 8. And I'm like, great, cool, nice. But yeah, this has some really, really fun melodies. It's the same thing kind of as the modern classics, where it's going to be a lot of music that you already know or you're just like pretty familiar with. But it's been really, really fun. There's like a really cute little like Toreador arrangement in here from Carmen, which is like so fun to play. But yeah, basically like books like that, honestly, I just picked up in the hallways of my university because like lots of teachers would be getting rid of books. Like they'd put out a box and just say like, you know, free for students, like take whatever you want. And so I would just like go through their old music and pick up things that looked like they were about my level, my students' level, or like just beyond my level. Because I mean, I've been working on my piano for a while. Like this is the most consistent I've ever been. Realistically, I decided at some point in the pandemic that this was something I really, really wanted to work on. And so I've just kind of been chipping away at it ever since. So yeah, I've been collecting music for this for a while, which has been really awesome. Okay, and then finally I just wanted to talk about why I'm doing this challenge, because I think that a couple years ago this isn't something that I probably would have thought like, oh yeah, let's just like sight read a ton of music. That's like, yeah, that's a great method to do this. But it's actually been really cool. So it's been a nice way for me to just like stay invested in my piano learning journey. So having different 30-day challenges just like helps me stay excited, and it also helps me to interact with things in like the piano world that I normally maybe wouldn't be super focused on. Because like personally for me, the way that I use piano is usually I'm accompanying my lessons, like my singing students. I could just theoretically practice their rep a ton and always be able to play all of their music. And that's cool, but also like I'd like to be a little bit more versatile than that, and like just for my own personal satisfaction and development, I would like to be able to sight read better. It just also exposes me to things that, like I said, I normally wouldn't be super focused on. Sight reading has exposed me to a bunch of new rep. I don't want to announce the next 30-day challenge yet, but I'm pretty psyched about what I think it's going to be. It's gonna be a hoot and a half, y'all. But also like I definitely am doing like a 30 days of jazz challenge at one point. Like so I think that stuff like that is really outside of the scope of what I'm normally doing in my day-to-day life as a musician, but it's really, really interesting, and it's just like super fun. So yeah, give it a go. The reason that I'm so interested in getting good at piano, aside from just like my own personal joy and satisfaction as a musician, and like I like sitting down and playing music, obviously, you know, that's great, but many of my voice teachers have actually been pretty competent pianists. And as a student, I really appreciate that for a couple reasons. One, because like while we're warming up and things, like they're playing, and so that's like really nice to have them support you in that way at the keyboard. But also like if you don't have a ton of money for a collaborative pianist, they can play for the majority of your lessons during your voice lesson. Then you can maybe bring in your pianist for the last couple of lessons before your performance or your recital, like whatever the big thing you're preparing is for. And then, you know, I just have fun, and I have a decent amount of time right now, and I just want to make sure that I'm investing it in things that are really going to just like build me as a person and as a musician. And I think that piano is like so amazing. Honestly, if I could just like go back and do something over in university, 100% I would sign up for like weekly piano lessons somehow. I think that I wish I would have done that because I think that even like 4 years of 30-minute a week piano lessons, oh my God, can you imagine? So if you're in university right now, listen, lessons. Even if you just do it over the summer, just do it. So thank you so much. That is it for me today. So I can't wait to tell you next week what our next 30-day challenge is. I'm super psyched. If you have any questions or comments, of course, write me down below and I'll get back to you. Bye! I wish you could all see my piano right now. I'm gonna close the lid so I can like lean on something. It is a disaster, not a disaster, it's a creative wonderland and, you know, exciting landscape. But basically like there's music everywhere from this challenge, which is really fun. Like I can basically look in any direction and like pick up something shiny and new and play through it and read through it, which is the whole point of this challenge. But wow, is there not just like piles of sheet music around me? It's fine.